I've learned several things. He's when we had the topic, I told him that after this visit to Atlanta, it's Chicago, and in Chicago, the topic is going to be Vaishnava etiquette for obvious reasons. And he said, I need to take that course. Yeah. He said he made a quote. I'll see if I can find the quote. He said, Vaishnava etiquette is the crown jewel of the Bhakti process. See if I can find the quote. And then he also indicated to me, because I was seeing you, I was with Pyari Mohan just before coming here. And Pyari Mohan told me that Garuda said, everyone mispronounces my name. So I said, Garuda, you never told me that. You didn't tell me I mispronounced your name. And he said, well, everyone mispronounces my name. And then he said, it's not Garuda, because there's no elongation of the Garuda. It's Garuda. It's, similar, but it's different. And then he used this expression, please accept my beak at your feet. I said, oh, come on. It's Garuda, right? Garuda. So humility. Those of you that like sitting at a distance, you're certainly welcome to do that, but there's some seats up front if you want to sit up front. If you like sitting in the back, no problem. Sit as far back as you like. No, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. Don't put the Bhagavatam on the floor. Okay. Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna. No. Okay. This looks like a learned audience. Is there anybody that needs an introduction to Rupa Goswami, or you all know who is Rupa Goswami? You all know who is Rupa Goswami? Fantastic. No. You're not sure who Rupa Goswami is. Let us introduce you to Rupa Goswami. Amongst the associates, you know who is Lord Chaitanya, of course. So amongst the associates of Lord Chaitanya, many wonderful associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and amongst them many important personalities, and amongst the many important personalities, topmost Rupa and Sanatan Goswami amongst the 6 Goswamis. There are at least 10 references within Chaitanya Charitamrita where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicated that he gave his full mercy to Rupa Goswami because he saw that he was an elevated personality, and he gave his full mercy. I mean, he's Krishna himself. To get the full mercy of Krishna himself, that's a lot of mercy. You got to have the big wheelbarrow to carry all that mercy. A truck or a big ship or a big something. And one little one person carrying all of that. And I blessed him that he would have full realization of everything that I taught him. And I blessed him that he would be able to write all the teachings that I gave him in transcendental books. And he asked this devotee and that devotee and groups of devotees, is everything okay? You sure? Okay. We'll see what happens.
No.
What was that all about? Anyway. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested that his associates give their blessings to Rupa Goswami. And he's a very special personality. And in particular, he is the acharya for the teaching of the process of devotional service, avideya, the process of devotional service, the process of achieving perfection of life. And that's bhakti. So he is super proficient in the whole science of bhakti, and thus he wrote the book, among a number of his books, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, 4 parts. Sindhu is an ocean of Bhakti Rasa, the taste of bhakti. And the taste of bhakti is oceanic, and it's complete nectar. So that's the title of his foremost book. And in that foremost book, he, in 2 verses, he presents the stages of bhakti from beginning to perfection. And the beginning is preliminary faith. And then faith, when it matures through the association of sadhu, becomes bhajana kriya. And then as bhajana kriya becomes matured, it has the impact of removing unwanted things from the heart, etc., etc., etc. And the stages of bhakti unfold. It's 9 verses. It's 2 verses with 9 stages of bhakti. And it's a wonderful subject. So this topic is, yes, bhakti begins with faith. And supposing someone has some preliminary faith, where does that preliminary faith come from? Well, one answer is, it's already there. Not only faith is already there, but prema is already there. Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Sadhya Kabunoi. Sadhya, the stage of perfection, which is Krishna Prema. It's already there. And how does it become awakened? Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitte Karaye Udoi. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita message. If Krishna Prema is there, then faith is there. And if faith is there, then when there's sadhu sangha, because faith is there through the process of hearing in the association or being in the association of devotees, faith awakens and bhakti awakens, and but the activities of bhakti awaken through sadhu sangha with preliminary faith that's already there. If preliminary faith is already there, then it must be, and it is, that humility is also present. However, there's coverings of the soul, and coverings of the soul result in something unwanted. The non-soul bhav, or conduct and speech and character and asadhu-like conduct and speech and lifestyle. So when humility is there and it becomes awakened through the association of devotees, then bhakti grows and bhakti grows. And similar to, I'm going to make my hand motion go like this. In his book, Madhurya Kandamini, Vishwanath Chakravarti describes faith is at the beginning, faith is in the middle, faith is in the advanced stages, and faith is in the perfection stages, just different stages. One way of describing the 9 stages of bhakti is stages of faith. And similarly, humility, and then stages and stages and stages and stages and stages. That is to say, those who are most advanced are most humble. It's embarrassingly humble. It seems cosmetic. Like how can they feel the feelings that they're feeling? But they're feeling those feelings. They're feeling absolutely unqualified, filled with disqualification, and therefore boldly they're pleading anyways, because they know that Krishna is merciful. He'll bestow his mercy. So abject humility precedes Shuddha Bhakti. And those of you that like reading Prabhupada's books, you know that there's 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. And in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, there are 6 questions at the very beginning. And essentially the questions are continuation of a discussion from chapter 2, but it's like graduate study. In chapter 2, Krishna's teaching, the very beginning instructions, there's matter and there's spirit, and we belong to the category of spirit. We don't belong to the category of matter. And between matter and spirit, there's the controller of both, and that's the supreme. That's knowledge. Knowledge is matter, spirit, and the controller of both. That's called Sankhya. When you read carefully Bhagavad Gita, you'll see chapter 2. There's a Sankhya section, and then there's the Buddha Yoga section, because Krishna declares it. Thus far I've described Sankhya, matter, spirit, and controller of both. And now I'm going to describe Buddha Yoga. How do you live your life according to what you know? Because one thing to know, it's another thing to live your life according to what you know. That takes intelligence, or spiritual intelligence, not material intelligence. It takes spiritual intelligence. Buddha Yoga, which is not different than Bhakti Yoga. Now, going over to chapter 13, and the same, matter, spirit, matter, spirit, matter, spirit. 6 questions in 3 pairs of 2, matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit. Kshetra and Kshetragya, matter and spirit. Correct? Matter and spirit. And then the other pair is Jnanam and Gayam. How does that matter in spirit? Because it can be knowledge that's still in the material field. And then if one has correct understanding of the object of knowledge, then that knowledge transitions from material to spiritual. Or by the influence of the spiritual, the knowledge becomes spiritual. Matter can become spiritualized by contact with spirit. It's an important teaching. It's a nice teaching. It's our hope. Because we have these bodies, and it's a lump of matter. And we're supposed to use a lump of matter to reach transcendence? How's that? Matter can't touch spirit, but spirit can transform matter. And that's how it works. So the reason I'm explaining all this is it has everything to do with the title. In the items of knowledge, so jnanam and gyayam, object knowledge and the object of knowledge. You'll find that in chapter 13. And those of you that are familiar with Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 13, verses 8 through 11, and sometimes it's characterized 8 through 12, there's 20 items of knowledge. And what's the first two of those 20 items of knowledge? This is the process of knowledge. Amanitvam adambitvam. Yes? 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 Do you remember? No. I thought so. Amanitvam adambitvam. Humility and pridelessness. So that's our topic, humility. And here's a nice verse, amongst many nice verses, by spoken by Lord Kapila. Those of you that may need an introduction to Lord Kapila, he's an avatar of Vishnu. The avatar of Vishnu, Kapiladeva, was the son of Kardamamuni and Devahuti. And long story short, Kardamamuni underwent great austerities and dedicated himself in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared standing on the back of Garuda as Garuda's flapping his wings. Not Garuda, but Garuda. I stand corrected. And he, Kardamamuni, the great devotee, Kardamamuni, son of Lord Brahma, he offered prayers. Lord Vishnu said, I know the purpose that you have undergone austerities. Your father, Lord Brahma was his father, your father made a request of you. The request that your father made of you was you assist him in filling up the universe with living entities he just built. So, become a Prajapati. And so to do that, you require a wife. Guess what? Good news. In 2 days from today, Swayambhuva Manu is going to come with his daughter, and his daughter, Devahuti, wants to marry you. All you have to do is say yes. Pretty easy marriage arrangement. Sometimes they're not so easy. And they were married. So Kardamamuni married Devahuti, and it was told by Lord Vishnu, you'll have 9 daughters and 1 son, and your son will be an incarnation of me. So congratulations. And Kapiladeva was an avatar of Vishnu, the son of Kardamamuni and Devahuti, and the commitment when when Kapiladeva said yes to Swayambhuva Manu, I accept your daughter in marriage on one condition. What's that? After a son is born and is of mature age to look after your daughter, I'm going to leave. Because it was just doing a service. It wasn't 10,000 years of austerity. He's not attached to anything material. But he had a service to do for his father. And he did. So he left. Kapiladeva was born. The 9 daughters got married with other personalities. And Kapiladeva stayed, and he looked after his mother, because nice young fellow. Avatar Vishnu, he abides by Dharma, looks after his mother. So his mother knew that my son is Vishnu. Imagine, mothers, knowing that your son is Vishnu. Woo. So the painting is showing she's sitting before Kapila seeking instructions on how to achieve perfection. It's not like she doesn't know, but people that ask questions, they may ask the right person so they can hear again and hear again and hear again and hear again. Because that's our process, Shravanam Kirtanam. And it's not like, okay, the bell rings, now I'm realized I don't have to be inquisitive anymore. I don't have to hear anymore, or I don't have to chant anymore. I just perfect. So she's asking, and he's narrating, and this is one of those verses that he's narrating. Now I have another picture, but oops. This history of Kardamuni, Devahuti, their 9 daughters and 1 son, all this is being narrated by Maitreya there on the left to Vidura on the right. And that's another nice long story. But, we want to get to the humility precedes bhakti. I like the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's really easy, and it's like pleasurable to speak about the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the picture that's on the left. Don't mind me. It's just Srimad Bhagavatam. It's purifying just to hear it. Vidura was the youngest of 3 brothers. Elder brother, Dhritarashtra. Middle brother, Pandu. Younger brother, Vidura. Although in Vedic culture, the younger brother looks up to the elder brother, in this case, the elder brother, Dhritarashtra, looked up to his younger brother, the youngest brother, because he was very wise. And he was taking advice. Sometimes he didn't take advice, but he was getting advice from, he had great respect, enormous respect for Vidura. However, the eldest son of Dhritarashtra was just the opposite of, an elevated person. You can call him different names, but he was the opposite of an elevated person. He was a bad person. And at a certain point in time, without all the in-between history, Duryodhana was challenged by many persons, including grandfather Bhishma and many, many others. But Vidura also spoke when he was like, I'm not going to accept a peace settlement. Vidura also spoke and said, she chastised him. He has the position because he's the brother of his father. So by seniority of age and wisdom, these two, he has the position to give instruction. Duryodhana didn't like it. He didn't speak harshly to all the other people who advised him, please give up this idea of war. Rather, he just turned and snapped at Vidura. Very nasty. Super, super, super nasty. And Vidura decided, you know what? I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and there's no more service for me here. So he got up and left. And when he got up and left, he could have just taken shelter of Krishna. But he decided, I've been contaminated by this unwholesome association, so I need to purify myself. So let me go on pilgrimage to all the holy places. And he started heading in a southerly direction and went around and around and around up to the western side and ended in Prabhas. He came to know from his visit in Prabhas the fratricidal war, and the entire Yadu army was annihilated, that Krishna had left, Balaram had left. He knew the whole thing. He was a devotee of Krishna. He was very, very devoted to Krishna, and without all the details of indicators that he's very devoted to Krishna. There's some nice explanations. He was very devoted to Krishna, and Krishna knew, and Krishna accepted his devotion. He then continued in his pilgrimage and headed in the north country. He passed through Vrindavan, Vidura, and he came across, this is the beginning of the third canto Bhagavatam, he came across Uddhava. Uddhava! What are you doing in Vrindavan? How nice to see you. How is Krishna? How is Balaram? How is Ugrasena? How is this one, that one? And he knew that they were gone. But he didn't want to say it. He didn't want to break his heart. But Uddhava already knew. And it's a very nice section. If you like reading nice sections, there's a very nice section. Canto 3, Chapter 2. Uddhava goes into trance, thinking of Krishna. He loses external consciousness. He's samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, just hearing about Krishna. He's so attached to Krishna. But because there's Uncle Vidura, uncle because of age, he struggles to come to external consciousness, and he then speaks 2 chapters of Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna out of Vrindavan. They're very beautiful from his heart. And Vidura, with Uddhava, Vidura is a learned person, but he asked Uddhava for more instruction, this and that and the other thing. And Vidura says, it would be and it would be an offense of me to speak transcendental topics when there's someone proximate who can answer all these questions better than me. Vastly learned Maitreya. You should go to see Maitreya. It wasn't like around the corner. It was up in the Himalayas, as you see from the painting. We visited this place, the cave where Vidura and Maitreya had their conversation. It's really sacred place. You feel the vibration of the place. And the long section of the Bhagavatam of the process of creation, for example. So included in the process of creation is what you see on the right. The beginning, the Swayambhuva Manu and the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu and who did what, and then Kapiladeva, and there's a whole long section of Kapiladeva's instructions. So here's one of his instructions. You see the Sanskrit? I'm not going to read the Sanskrit. Here's the translation. A devotee should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Significant. This is Satya Yuga, and they're talking about chanting the holy name of the Lord. It's not just a Kali Yuga thing. It's always. His behavior, this devotee, his behavior should always be straightforward and simple. And although he is not envious, but friendly to everyone, he should avoid the company of persons who are not spiritually advanced. So I'm going to read to you the 2 paragraphs from the purport because it feeds into our topic for this evening. Chapter 29, text number 18. All right. 29. That's 31. Yeah. There we go. The Bhaktivedanta purport reads, just 2 paragraphs at the beginning. In order to advance in spiritual understanding, one has to hear from the authentic sources about spiritual knowledge. It's the process of knowledge. Back to the process of knowledge, chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita. It's the process of knowledge. It's knowledge and the process of knowledge and the goal of knowledge. Jnanam and Gyayam. One can understand the reality of spiritual life by following strict regular principles and by controlling the senses. To have control, it is necessary that one be, then it gives like this list from Bhagavad Gita chapter 13. Nonviolent, truthful, refrain from stealing, abstain from sex life, and possess only that which is absolutely necessary for keeping the body and soul together. One should not eat more than necessary. You should not collect more paraphernalia. This Rupa Goswami sounds like, right? He should not talk unnecessarily with common men. He should not follow rules and regulations without purpose, or say it positively, you should be mindful of the purpose when you're following some regulation. Follow the regulation, but don't just follow the regulation without in a mechanical or routine way. He should follow all the rules and regulations so that he may actually make advancement. Paragraph. There are 18 qualifications. Now the list is 20, so 20 or 18. Mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, among which is simplicity. One should be without pride. No, amanitvam adambitvam. One should not demand unnecessary respect from others, and one should be nonviolent. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa. One should be very tolerant and simple. One should accept the spiritual master. One should control the senses. These are mentioned here and in Bhagavad Gita as well. One should hear from the authentic sources. It's like the 3rd time in the 2 paragraphs. How to advance in spiritual life. Such instructions should be taken from the Acharya and should be assimilated. So in the process of knowledge, then there's the goal, knowledge, the process of knowledge, and the goal. To reach the goal, an essential element is humility. And, that's like the seed, like adar shraddha. At least preliminary. I want to hear from someone who knows. One of the things I like doing, and so I do it a lot, is interacting with college kids. My reason, this is, disclosure of my reason, it's gratitude. Because once upon a time I was a college kid. And Srila Prabhupada visited the university that I was attending. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know lots of things. And he was visiting on tour with Allen Ginsberg. This place, that place, and then after where I was going to school, it was Ohio State, because Howard Wheeler or Hayagriva was a professor there, and he set up an arrangement for Prabhupada to speak at Ohio State. And Allen Ginsberg was traveling with him. Because Allen Ginsberg, you don't know Allen Ginsberg. You're not American. But all American people know Allen Ginsberg. He was a famous and infamous person at the same time. Famous as a poet. And infamous, he was an advocate of LSD. So some people thought that was famous, not infamous. But he took LSD, and then he wrote his poetry on LSD, and then he had poetry readings with everybody in the audience on LSD, and it was like experience. So famous and infamous. And Allen Ginsberg liked India, and he liked yoga, and he liked mantra, and he liked the Hare Krishna mantra in particular. So that they fit well together. Prabhupada had like this celebrity, famous, infamous person with him. And so Allen Ginsberg was playing bongo drums. You don't know what bongo drums are. Some of you know. It's the drum, but it's like there's a little bit bigger on this side, a little bit smaller on that side, and they kind of a wood structure. And, the hippies would boom, 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 bebop, boom. And Prabhupada was playing kartals and chanting. And Allen Ginsberg, I recognized him. Big, thick glasses, receding hairline, hair that went out like this. Like an Albert Einstein kind of a look. I knew who he was, but I didn't know who the other person was. And so, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. I went inside the room where they were chanting. I didn't know what was going on. There were so many people at the door. I'd never seen anything like that before, the Millard Fillmore room. So I just kind of wiggled my way through the crowd at the door and went inside. There's a spotlight there on the stage chanting Hare Krishna. And everybody high on one thing or another thing and bouncing off the walls and the ceiling, because that's what people that are followers of Allen Ginsberg do. And Prabhupada, just was chanting. And my life changed. I mean, in retrospect. Many things happened after that, without all the details. So, the association of saintly persons, he mainly was kirtan. People were so intoxicated on whatever they were intoxicated with, they couldn't pay attention to anything. So he just spoke very simply, very simply, invited the devotees to come to the center that was across the main street of the campus on Englewood Avenue, and come to the program at the temple, Bhagavad Gita class 3 nights a week, and all of that. And that was it. And then everything started to change. I mean, opportunities came, and I just happened to say yes to those opportunities that came, without all the detail. So I'm telling you this because one of the things that I do at universities is ask the students, a series of questions to help get them involved. And one of the questions is the question, who are you? It's Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. In fact, it's a whole presentation, who am I? It takes about 20, 25 minutes. And without all the details, it's just stimulating the students to ask themselves that question. Because most people are too busy trying to be successful. Whatever successful means, it's the norm of the day. That's what successful is. And there's no time for who am I? Just be successful. And then who you are, I'm successful as an IT guy, or successful as an engineer, or successful as a whatever. And that's who I am. I'm successful something or other. But to ask the question, who am I, that's pretty rare. And where does humility come for such a person? Even when there's sadhu sangha. So my experience is, in the audience, there's some people that there's a little bit of a light. Prabhupada's example is a little spark. And using his hand like this, you fan the spark. Not too much. And the spark, preaching, Prabhupada said, preaching means you fan the spark, and the spark can become a flame. And then he paused and said, and a very expert preacher can make the flame into a big blaze. And he did one of those, his eyes got really big and looked around. Fan the spark. Take the teachings that allow the heart that has a little spark of humility, a little spark of faith to grow. Now, here's the Bhagavad Gita picture. There's the two verses, Amanidvam, Adambidvam. The two, Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, parallel one another. It's not a different message, just undergraduate and graduate study of the same thing. Now, many of us, you know who is Lord Chaitanya. So, and Lord Chaitanya didn't write books. You know that, right? He gave teachings and asked his students to write the books according to his teachings. And his teachings were from the Vedas. But an understanding or a rendering or excavation of the truths of the Vedas in a way that it's very sublime, most sublime. And he gave those teachings to his devotees. But it is said there are 8 teachings, Ashtaka, Shikshashtaka, 8 teachings that describe the gift that he came to give. The gift that he came to give was what? Krishna Prema. Or even more specifically, Braja Prema. But Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaur Trishe Namaha. That's our Lord Chaitanya. So there's a recording, and I hope the recording works with this nice system you have here. See that little horn in the bottom right? It says there's an embedded sound. The embedded sound is Prabhupada chanting. Let's see if it works. Notice the word manina. It's the same as Bhagavad Gita. Amanina, amanadena. So, adambitvam. So this trinadapi, we know the word trin. What does trin mean? Straw, blade of grass. Here's from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Raising my hands, I declare, everyone, please hear me. String this verse on the thread of the holy name and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. How many here have been to Vrindavan? Oh. How many here would like to go to Vrindavan? We're going to make a little visit to a place in Vrindavan, a virtual visit, just now, a place called Ter Kadamba. Ter Kadamba is at the base of the ancestral home of Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, on the top of the hill. What's the top of the hill called? Nandagram? Nandeshwara. So at the top of the hill is where Krishna lived. At the bottom of a hill and heading in the direction where Radharani's so-called husband lived, Yavat. And in between is Ter Kadamba. Ter Kadamba is after Kadamba is a certain type of tree, has a little flower that looks like a ball, and they become very tall and stout and strong trees, Kadamba trees. So Krishna used to climb up the Kadamba tree when herding the calves and the cows at the end of the day. He'd climb up and tear. With his flute, he would call the names of the groups of cows, and the cows would just wait to hear their name called and moo. Their tails would raise, their ears would go up, and they come running. And then they'd wait to the next group, the next group. So it's a celebrated place, a place of Krishna's pastimes, with regard to the cows and also with regard to Srimati Radharani. So near that place is a grove. In the grove, there's still some trees. Besides Kadamba trees, there's other types of trees. And there's a nice sadhu that lives there inside that little grove of trees. And he's a friendly person. I mean, sometimes sadhus they're a little greedy. Vrindavan sadhus, they want bakshish. But this fellow isn't like that. He likes to Shribini Prasadam, and he's a lovely person. He doesn't speak English, but those that understand Hindi, he's a lovable fellow. And what you see on the screen is there's an altar of Krishna Balaram, and it's in this area that Rupa Goswami composed much of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I mentioned the book already, for those that you were here with us in the beginning. Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. And he wrote much of the book at this place, Ter Kadamba. And so just above the deities, when you go to visit Vrindavan next time, if you happen to make a visit to Ter Kadamba and Nandagram and Pavan Sarovar and all those nice places by near Nandagram, you look above the altar where these deities are, and you'll see inscribed in Sanskrit the following verse. And there's the word trin again. And adadanas trinam dantire. So within straw in his dantire, within his teeth. Idam yache puna puna Srimad Rupa padambo jo rajoham syam bhave bhave. Translation: taking a blade of grass between my teeth, dantire, I repeatedly beg that birth after birth I may obtain the dust of Srila Rupa Goswami's lotus feet. This verse was written by Raghunatha Das Goswami. And Raghunatha Das Goswami, this verse is in the invocation section of one of the very few books that he wrote, Dana Keli Chintamani. And he wrote it following Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami, Dana Keli is a pastime, a tax pastime. Dana Keli, a tax pastime. Extracting tax, Krishna extracting tax from the gopis. But prior to his writing this book, Rupa Goswami wrote a similar book, similar theme, different location, a different mood, and different flavor, but a text pastime. Danakeli Kumudi. Raghunath Das, was such a lover of Rupa Goswami that he wrote this verse, birth after birth. Please understand, one of the books that Raghunath Das Goswami wrote was a book about Raga Bhakti. What's Raga Bhakti? Raga Bhakti is a stage of spontaneous devotion. We're enjoined to follow Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And if we're doing just like we just read, those 18 items or 20 items, it's things to do, things not to do. Vidhis, rules, and injunctions and prohibitions, and we were supposed to follow them. And by following them, what happens? One may become purified. And when one becomes purified, what happens? That which is underneath the dirt or the contamination becomes revealed. That's who we are. If you want to know who you are, just follow Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And then there's a stage where it's spontaneous. It's no longer intelligence driving the mind and senses, but the heart is driving the mind and senses. It's a very nice description. It's part of the stages, one of the stages of bhakti. And Raghunatha Das Goswami, who is author of this verse, wrote a book, Manashiksha, that's just about how to enter into Radha and Krishna's eternal pastimes in Vrindavan without seeking liberation, but birth, that's just as Mahaprabhu says, Mama Jamani Jamanishre Bhavatad Bhaktir Haitaki Twayi. Raghunath Das followed that, and he wrote a book about it. And one of the things he writes in his book is what's in this verse. Become a follower of Rupa Goswami and Swarup Damodar and Rupa's elder brother, Sanatana. It's right in one of his verses. He's teaching Raga Bhakti. He lived it, and he's giving it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also came to give it. He gave Vaidhi, but he also gave Vraja Bhakti. So here's Srila Prabhupada teaching something about Shikshastika verse number 3, the one we just recited or heard Prabhupada sing. Trinadapi sunichena, lower than a trodden blade of grass, in one way of translating. On the right, that's Sanatana Goswami, Rupa's elder brother, vastly learned, filled with knowledge. From the time he was a teenager, he was reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Here's what happened. Even before he was a teenager, he was a young Brahmin boy. He had a dream. In his dream, a Brahmin came to him in his dream and gave him a gift, Srimad Bhagavatam. That wasn't like our BBT publications, hardcover, nice illustrations. It wasn't like that. It was just handwritten, leaf pages, Bhagavatam. And he woke up. In the morning, that very same Brahmana that appeared to him in his dream came to his home and gave him a Bhagavatam. And he understood providential. I'm meant to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so from that time, every day, he read Srimad Bhagavatam. And he'd studied under one of the most celebrated Sanskrit scholars in the whole country at the time, as a young boy. So he is like vastly learned and a lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it comes out in everything that he did. As learned as he was, look at the painting. He's wearing very simple garments with straw in his teeth, clasping the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, asking 2 questions. Who am I? Same one. Kayami. Who am I? And why am I forced to undergo the threefold miseries? We don't want to be miserable, but it comes. Why? Some people don't ask the why question. They just like, let me take a tablet or, do better in my academics or something. So I don't have to be so miserable. Anyway, on the left side, you recognize the painting. This is from Jagannath Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there is with a shaved head. He's in Jagannath Puri. And he was humble. He wanted to have darshan of Lord Jagannath, but he stayed towards the back. Many of you have probably been in the Jagannath temple. I've not, because we're not allowed to go in. But he stood by the back of the temple by the Gruta Stamba, out of humility, feasting his eyes on the form of Lord Jagannath. That's nice descriptions in Chaitanya Charitamrita. One time, this elder lady, she was so enthusiastic, and the crowd was too big. She climbed up on Lord Chaitanya's shoulders, stood on his shoulders, held on the Gruta Stamba so she could see Lord Jagannath. And Govinda's there, get down, what are you doing? And Lord Chaitanya understood Govinda's mood, and he said, no. If only I had such love and enthusiasm to see Lord Jagannath, my life would become perfect. And then when she realized what she had done, she was like super embarrassed. But this is the stage of spontaneous love. The regulations of the do's and do nots take a back seat, and the enthusiasm takes the front seat. That was Sati's explanation to her father, Daksha, of why Lord Shiva does what Lord Shiva does. He's beyond the regulations. He's beyond Vidhi Bhakti. You're an offender. You don't understand who my husband is, and you're insulting him and da 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 da. So it's not like okay, the bell rang. I'm now a spontaneous bhakta. I can do what I like. Haribol. It's not like that. Rather, it is when there's a spike of enthusiasm and it goes way up, and one becomes so enthusiastic, one may not do all the things that are the do's, and one may do not the things that are do nots, and one may do the things that are do nots. But the horse that's pulling that cart is spontaneous bhakti. And that's the kind of bhakti that the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had. And of course they gave Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is filled with it. And Hari Bhakti Vilas, written by Sanatana Goswami, is filled with it. So it's not like we just ignore but at the same time, what's the purpose behind? As those two little paragraphs that we read. Don't just follow rules without understanding the purpose behind. I mean, follow the rules, but in addition to following the rules. Here's another nice illustration. Some of you who have been to Vrindavan will recognize this one. This is a sadhu, or at least a Vaishnava, who's doing Dandavats Parikram. The procedure, those of you that have seen it, they have this little straw mat, or sometimes like a little pillow, and they put they have in their hand a rock. This fellow has 108 rocks, and full dandavats, placing the rock at the tip of his hands and offering prayers. We don't know what prayers this fellow is reciting, but in this way, they go around the whole of Govardhan Hill. Sometimes they go around Radhakund like this, and sometimes the whole Govardhan Hill. It takes a long time to do that one. But that's their life, is cultivation of humility and submission unto the personality of Godhead. And villagers in Vrindavan may look very simple, like this lady, but their devotion may be glorious. We don't know the book by the cover, but what's inside is that humility. And there then comes the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now I want to just cover a little bit more, and then I'm going to end and see if you want to discuss something. We liberally encourage people to chant the holy name. We don't give the intimate glories of the holy name, but everyone, anyone, children, anyone can chant the holy name because they're not rules that accompany the chanting of the holy name. But there are mantras that have rules. They're not to be chanted aloud. They're not to be given to people that are not qualified. They're to be given by the guru to the person that's qualified. And there's 3 parts to those mantras. One of them, it begins with, or it ends with namaha, like Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. We can all say that one. Or Namo Narayanaya Namaha. So, what is the meaning of namaha? It's nice to know the meaning of words. Here's a nice reference to the meaning. It comes from Padma Purana. Ma represents ahankar, and na represents negation of ahankar. Thus, by uttering namaha, one negates one's independent attitude. The jiva is dependent on the Lord. He lives with dependence. Therefore, one should completely reject the idea of accomplishing by one's own capacity, accomplishing anything. Nothing is left to be accomplished by the ability of the Lord. Consigning one's body to the Lord, one should serve him. That's namaha. And here's the reference if you want to look it up later. So, this is all on the topic of humility, or the absence of false ego. Humility. When you take away false ego, there's something left? Yes. There's a true ego. And the true ego is this humility. And we're all spirit souls. We have a true identity. And it's with us already. And here's a teaching by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which discusses the 6 limbs or angas of surrender to Krishna. One of the 6 one very important one is humility, or the appeal for, based upon humility, appeal for mercy. Here's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing. Were you to judge me now, you would find no good qualities. Have mercy and judge me not. Cause me to drink the honey of your lotus feet and thereby deliver this bhakti vinod. This is the kind of humility that is exhibited by persons who are most qualified. So we went from preliminary to intermediate and now very advanced stages of humility. And emblematic of them is Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. In the background, we see the dome of the Madan Mohan temple. Similarly, we know this nice quality of Haridas Thakur. Although by birth he's not qualified, but by character he's most qualified. So qualified that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as the Acharya for the chanting of the holy name. He declared it publicly, boldly, because he was completely humble and took full shelter of the holy name, constantly chanting the holy name, even through thick and through thin. And we're going to end with a little story. This is a Mahabharata story. Anybody here is a Mahabharata fan? Okay, there's a few Mahabharata fans. There's a nice Mahabharata story. Ekalavya. Ekalavya was a prince, and his father was a king. So the son of a king is a prince. And his father was the king of a Nishada group, kind of like a forest-dwelling, Aborigine-type Nishadas. That was his father. And his son, Ekalavya, had the spirit of a Kshatriya, although he was living in the forest. So when he heard that Dronacharya was giving lessons in Dhanurved, he went to become his student. The same time he was training the Pandavas and others. And Dronacharya said no. And the reason, he was a Kshatriya, a Brahmana teaching Dhanurved to Kshatriyas. That's what but he decided to say no, because he explained this later. We'll tell you later. Well, he said that if he learns and he has something that's very powerful and his character is not elevated, what's going to happen? He's going to misuse it. So I'm not going to give something very powerful to the person that doesn't have character just because he wants it. So he said no. But Ekalavya didn't take no for an answer. This story is often told to illustrate the power of deity worship. Ekalavya went back to the forest, and using what he had available, which was earth and water. When you mix earth together with water, what do you have? Mud. So he had a murti of Dronacharya made from mud, decorated and ornaments and this and that, worshipped Dronacharya through the murti of Dronacharya, and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced the skill of archery. And he became very accomplished. That is, he received mercy from the deity of Dronacharya, even though Dronacharya said no. Some time passed, practice, and one fine day there was a dog that was barking at him, and he tried to shoo the dog away, and the dog wouldn't go away, barking. So he got his bow and shot, as the dog was barking, opened his mouth to bark. He shot 7 arrows simultaneously inside the mouth of the dog. He shut up the dog. Couldn't bark anymore. So the dog went, yelping and thising, thating, and he came to a place where the Pandavas were, because on that very same day, the Pandavas, with the permission, the blessing of Drona, to practice their archery skills and military skills in the forest, they were out in the forest, and they saw this dog with 7 arrows in his mouth. And Arjuna's kneeling down, looking at these 7 arrows, and said, where did this happen? This is a skill I don't have. So they went and pursued where the arrowsmith came from, and it was Ekalavya. So they asked, what's your name? He said, Ekalavya. And could you tell us a little bit, where did you learn? He said, I'm a disciple of Dronacharya. And everything that I have, he's taught me. That's where the 7 arrows came from, and so many other things. So Arjuna, as you see in the painting or the little drawing, Arjuna was with the other brothers. So Arjuna went back to Dronacharya and said, please help me understand. You said that everything that you know you're going to teach me, I didn't learn this one. And also you said that there'll be no one, you gave me your word, that there'll be no one equal to or can surpass you in your military skills. But I can't do any of this. Could you please explain? And then Drona explained, yes, I remember this fellow. He came, but I considered, I want the Pandavas, this is Drona. Later, Drona became on the opposite side of the Pandavas. But I wanted you to become the next emperor. That was what he wanted. So he trained them so nicely. And this other fellow, if he carries on, that's going to be problematic, because he's not a person of good character. And so please take me to where this Ekalavya fellow is. So they did. And in this drawing, you see in the backside, that's the Murti of Dronacharya, and right in the center, that's Dronacharya. And behind him is Arjuna. And he asked him, who are you? He said who you are. And I'm your disciple. He paid his obeisances. He said, okay, since it's part of our culture that when you receive knowledge from Guru, you must give Guru Dakshin. Yes. So the Dakshin I'm asking for is your right thumb. So the painting is showing he cut off his right thumb. Now, it is a little bit mysterious because he was unsubmissive when Drona said no, but then when Drona said cut off your thumb, he cut off his thumb, which means he couldn't do his archery anymore. So was he unsubmissive or was he submissive? It's one of those confusing things. But he didn't achieve bhakti, that's for sure. Guru bhakti misdirected may give some result, but it with bad character, it's problematic. And sometimes we see that. So that's our little presentation for this evening, kind of meandered around here and there and elsewhere. But the theme is this one. Bhakti begins with some faith, and with faith there has to be some humility. How can you have faith in someone or something? Let's just say a medical doctor, or any, a school teacher, or anything. Is someone that's going to teach you how to cook or dress the deity or something. You have to, go to somebody that knows. So some humility. I don't know. I want to learn from someone who knows. So from a seed, and then growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, maturing up to true bhakti or pure bhakti, Shuddha bhakti. Humility is needed. Sadhu Sangha is needed. Faith is needed. Humility is needed. Up to the stage of perfection. Up to and including the stage of perfection. So that's our topic. Now, those of you that are seated way in the back, could you hear everything? Okay. Nodding your head yes means you can hear the question I just asked. Any comments or questions? Yes, Balabhadra.
I'm trying to formulate the question, but in the purport to chapter 13, 8 through 12 that you mentioned earlier,
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada defines humility as not being anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others.
That's the pridelessness. You want? Should I from the Bhagavad Gita or from the Bhagavatam? Okay.
It says like that.
Okay.
He defines each one of those 20 qualities.
Okay.
So when it comes to humility, he says that. So I'm wondering if you've covered it in the context of what you spoke, but if you could just elaborate a little bit more on that specific.
Okay. Nice topic. Thank you. Those of you that like reading Prabhupada's books, and there's many persons here, so you probably like some persons here like reading Prabhupada's books. There's a couplet. There's a number of them. Well, one of them is Aham Mameti. Aham and Mama. I and mine. Iti means thus. So the material consciousness is a combination of I and mine. I and this body. And mine is what comes from this body. What comes from this body is mine. My work, the fruits of my work. My house, my car, my bank balance, my family, and then expands. My friends, my community, my group. So I and mine. I and mine. Then groupism. So, but the foundation is the I conception, ahankara, and then comes the mind conception, which is I want persons to recognize something about me, or at least recognize me, or honor me, or acknowledge me, or people have their needs. So when that's absent, it can be when there's no false ego. That's not there. One can go on serving and serving and serving and serving and serving and serving and serving, like Prabhupada did, and not expecting, with humility, not expecting some recognition from others. So they're connected. The I and mind are connected. That's one point. Aham and mama. You dissolve the false ego, and the mama is gone. Mind. Being eager. So what inspires? Let's say I was just in Connecticut before coming here, and I met 4 kids, and they won a state award in robotics. They did all. I don't know anything. I said, "What's robotic, please?" And they explained. They did the coding to go into a robot that could do this, that, and the other thing. You know what robotics is? Okay, because young people know what that stuff is. I'm not a young person. I had to ask. And they won a state award. The father of one of the 4 kids said there were 580 competitors in that award giving thing, and they won first prize. So it's to do something like that, you have to have intelligence. You can't build a robot without some smarts. But where's the spiritual intelligence? Because knowledge means matter, spirit, and the controller of both. And when they're doing their coding to make the robotics do whatever the robot did, where's Krishna? So if Krishna is missing, I'm in this other zone called false ego zone. And people are going to pat me on the back. Oh, you got first prize. Yes, I got first prize. Or, oh, it wasn't so wonderful. Then it's another kind of, it's a different kind of humility than what's real spiritual humility is what's just being described in Bhagavad Gita, and not doing something for the purpose of the I and the mind. So that's an elaboration on that little phrase. Prabhupada had a way of making things very concise, but then when needed, he could expand and expand and expand and make it concise again. Anybody else?
Maharaj, you said that 3 levels of faith, right? So how
3 levels of what?
faith?
Faith.
So how we should advance in faith?
How should you advance in faith? Well, there's more than 3. There's 9 levels of bhakti. So you can say there's 9 levels of faith. But, this is a how-to question. I have a standard answer for how-to questions. You ready? It's in 2 words. Sadhu Sangha. When you or I or any one of us have association of a genuine sadhu, then it helps one become humble, because I'm not there yet, but here's somebody that's there yet, and so let me learn from the one who's there. You'll learn from a good teacher, and you have a good teacher, and you'll learn. Your faith will grow, because the things that you hear, and you live by the things that you hear, you apply that what you hear, then purification comes. And then realization. Now, if realization comes, then I can also become proud if I'm not humble. But it's not just not remain dumb or remain in ignorance, but increase in humility as well as in faith, and go step by step by step to the next stage. So the short answer: sadhu sangha. And when you're with sadhus, what do? You do what sadhus do. What do sadhus do? Bhajana kriya. So do bhajana kriya in the association of sadhus, and your faith will grow. Pretty simple. Anybody out there? Oh, come on. Go ahead.
So Maharaj, so in the purport, we read this part where Prabhupada says that one should not follow rules and regulation without understanding the purpose. But is it okay if some person is not in position to understand purpose, still let him follow rules and regulations?
Yeah. But if you want to progress, it's not just doing the do's and avoiding the don'ts. Let's take putting tilak. Boom. It's nice. Why? I don't know. Poof. Or, offering, here's a nice tray with some fruits and flowers. Or, fruits and the flowers are up there. It's a ritual. It's nice. Beneficial. Offer fruit and flower. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Some water. Offer to Krishna. It's nice. But if you understand what's the purpose behind it, Krishna doesn't need a flower, doesn't need a leaf.
But does person get the benefit also?
There's a preliminary benefit. Yes. Doing without knowing the purpose behind it. Yes. And then to progress, what's the purpose behind it?
To attend up.
Yeah. Like, chanting Hare Krishna. Some people chant Hare Krishna, they don't know what it is. And they don't care to know what it is. But are they getting benefit? Of course they're getting benefit. Okay? And then for such a person, we would like them to understand what it is and why. And when they understand what it is and why, they're getting more benefit. Okay. Okay. You have something. Yeah.
Just about the topic.
I'm going to repeat his question because you people back there can't hear him. There's a young man over here. He's going to ask a question. Be patient. I'll repeat the question. Go ahead.
This is true Bhakti, so I was just curious, can Bhakti be ever complete?
Yes. Well, true bhakti is pure, but there's mixed bhakti also. Isn't it? Yeah? Well, that's the territory we're familiar with. Bhakti that's mixed with gyan and karma. I do something to get something. That's fruitive. And is it possible to do something and I'm not anxious to get something? The platform of purity or the platform of love, you do something simply out of love. Now, we're not there yet. We're mixed. So back to your question, is it possible to have a mix? Yeah.
Those two correlates to
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Would you say the Pandavas were humble?
Would you say what?
The Pandavas were humble.
Of course.
So then,
Would you say otherwise?
I believe so. But then, where is the limit of humility when you get abused and misused? Now, where do you draw the line to humility? In our case, I talk about the Pandavas because they had so much more tolerance than we do.
Yes, they certainly did. They certainly did. And they much more virtue than we do also.
Yes.
So the question is, what's the limit of tolerance? Yes? Or humility?
Because the Pandavas that Krishna to guide them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have that direct association.
That's right. But we have Bhagavad Gita and we have Mahabharata. Because I've been preparing for this Vaishnava etiquette seminar, I've been asking myself questions like this. Because it's one thing, and I plan to do it because we have our standards from Ramayana and Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam and Lord Chaitanya's Leela and, super excellent examples. And then comes us. So we take lessons from the super excellent examples, but then what about us? Like your question, what's the limit of being humble? When do you draw the line and say, back off? Or, a very nice example in Vidura's case, because I narrated, when Duryodhana insulted him, he didn't leave because you insulted me and I'm your uncle. Wasn't like that. It was service oriented. There's no service for me here anymore. So he left. Similarly, the day before Krishna, this is Mahabharata, the day before Krishna was to arrive, because this is a little background. Yudhishthira, the end of their 12 years on the force and 1 year incognito, they're the kingdom of King Bharat. Yudhishthira knew the time was up. He sent a messenger all the way to Dwarka requesting Krishna, please intervene so that there won't be a fratricidal war between cousin brothers. Krishna came all the way from Dwarka with an entourage all the way to Hastinapur. That's a big journey. And the day before he was to get there, in the public assembly in Hastinapur, Dhritarashtra, the Duryodhana, got before the whole assembly and made this loud declaration. When Krishna comes, I'm going to tie him up and put him in prison. And he was right in front of his father, right in front of Vidura, right in front of Vyasadeva, in front of grandfather Bhishma. Bold, brazen, bad. Like, where's humility? Where do you draw the line? Bhishma stood up. He glared at Dhritarashtra and said, you tolerate this son of yours. You could put your foot down and he would do what you say, but you don't do it. You remain silent. And then he, Bhishma, turned on Duryodhana and spoke very strongly against Duryodhana. He got up and walked out. No, he didn't just stay humble and, gosh, he's the next king. I better be respectful because he's the next king. No, he had the position. He's grandfather. He had the seniority. So he spoke. We have to be careful. What is your relationship with the person who you may feel has crossed the line? You can't speak if it's not your position to speak. So that's, 17:15 Bhagavad Gita, austerity of speech. But where do you draw the line is your question. So it depends on who you are and your circumstance. And one of the things you can do, you can say, "Excuse me, you're stepping on my foot and it hurts."
Yes.
Not just tolerate. Please don't step on my foot. It hurts. Please, or some other thing or some other thing or some other thing. Are you aware of what you're doing right now? And not in a way that's confronting. The spirit behind tolerance is to do a service for another. Ultimately, the service for another is to please Krishna. So Krishna is way up here. The other is wherever they think they are. And you can tolerate, but if you decide to say something or do something, it should be in the mood of what's going to lift this person up. And if you do something that is purposeful for lift this person up, you may not get a good result, but you're not going to get a good result by being tit for tat either. So what's going to be of elevation to the other person? And if you can't come up with, if your intelligence doesn't provide you with an answer to that question, then you can silently get up and leave. And sometimes circumstances are you can't silently get up and leave. So then what do you do? What happened in Kurukshetra, amongst the cousin brothers, there was a war. Because that's what Duryodhana said. I can't live on the planet. They can't have 5 villages, that much land you can fit under the head of a pin. There must be war. I can't live on the same planet with these 5 brothers. So there was war. So there's a limit, and then becomes conflict, open conflict, and that happens. So where's the limit? You cross the line. You give the person every opportunity to make a peaceful solution, or just walk away. But never depart from the mood of seeking to be in service to Krishna, and in service to Krishna is to elevate the consciousness of the other person. You may not have an answer to that question, but if you have that question, you have that spirit, more likely you're going to get an answer than if you don't. Then consult other learned persons, other sadhus, and ask those other sadhus, what should I do in this circumstance? I asked that question wasn't exactly with humility, but it was in relation to something that was problematic. It's a long story, make it short. I asked Burijan that question once. And his answer, the context makes it really nice, but the answer was, in some cases, it's just between that person and Krishna, and you don't need to do anything. Step back, you have to do something. There's a relationship between Krishna and that person, and it's being worked out. And allow Krishna to do what Krishna does. You don't have to play Krishna's role or his intermediary. Some cases we do. That servant is an instrument of Krishna. We do something. So that's a long answer to an important question.
Thanks, Maharaj. We can just pray to Gaurnitai. All of us become in that situation that sometimes for no reason somebody is misbehaving and they keep hurting, keep hurting. Ultimately, it's no point talking to them. I just pray to God Nitai, and God Nitai somehow settles it.
Do you know that what you just said is something that Prabhupada said?
I don't know.
Yes. What you just said is what Prabhupada said. When there's some issue, that he was speaking specifically about conflict between devotees. You go before Gauratai and just you speak to them, and they'll settle everything. And it's a nice quote. And, the exact quote is very nice, but that was the essence. Okay, looks like we're done. One more, two more.
This is just a personal example of what Sean was asking how you answered. I had a situation with a very senior godbrother to me, and I personally felt that that person had crossed the line in addressing me or about me like that. But I was meditating on what Japa Maharaj had revealed at one point about how to approach your guru or senior with a straw between your teeth, tears in your eyes, and submit to that person. So, because I had a long-standing, loving relationship with that person, I could go to them and say, Maharaj Prabhu, I feel that you crossed the line in addressing me in a certain way. And because I did it with love, as much humility as I had, it turned out to be a really wonderful experience for both of us. So I know if you practice building loving relationships prior to finding a person's feedback or directions or whatever, it has a different effect. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, you shouldn't do this or you should do that. I think we take the time to build those loving relationships, as Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Instructions.
I want to add, and there's prior to the building of those relationships. Well, it's an element to help build such relationships. So here's a little story. During the Kartik month, we made a pilgrimage to Haridwar, Rishikesh, and Badrinath. Bhakti, Chaitanya Maharaj, and myself, and a number of people. And it was during the school year. So one teenage girl skipped school. I mean, with permission, but she skipped school with the understanding that when she came back, she would make up all the homeworks and take all the exams that she missed. When she came back, all of her teachers, except her math teacher, were very, understanding because she had prior permission, etc. But her math teacher was very nasty. The math teacher let them do all their homework. We said, when you take your exam, I'm going to fail you. And he was like, what? And even if you do really well, I'm not going to give you a passing mark. It was like nasty. And this young girl, a month later, is in a national competition at Princeton University for math students from all over the United States. And she won an award. And, she's a brilliant math kid. And the teacher was being really nasty. And she was really hurt. I mean, teenage kids get hurt. Sometimes big kids get hurt. So it wasn't exactly boo-hoo, just like, what do I do? So we, went through this and that and the other thing. And I said, at the end, I said, here's my recommendation. Without any expectation at all, make some brownies or some cookies and take them to your teacher. Just give them to your teacher and see what happens. And if nothing happens, it's okay, because, you did the right thing. You're honoring your teacher. And the teacher's being, a jerk or, a mean, unreasonable person. That's, who knows what they've been through to be like that. If you knew the pain that they're experiencing, then you'll probably understand why they're being mean to you. But, you don't know, and so that's okay. Be nice. And without expectation. So it happened, and I don't know what happened when it happened. I mean, the mother decided not just that teacher, but all the teachers should get some nice gift.
Wow.
It's just building the relationship where it's where was it coming from? It wasn't retaliation. It was investing in the relationship, a gift. Dati pratiganati. You have the last question.
So sometimes unintentionally we do the things and we don't want to offend anyone.
But people take offense anyways.
Yeah. So how to, and when we do that happens indirectly, we are blocking or we are displeasing another, and it's hampering devotional service.
You're not responsible for their emotions. You're responsible for your consciousness and pleasing Krishna. And someone can read your attempt to please Krishna as disturbing. So, you may want to tone it down or redirect it a little bit or something, but the intention cannot be faulted, should not be. Your business is not everyone's going to smile or think you're back to this question about expecting something from others. You have a relationship with Krishna and you live accordingly. And when you do that, there's going to be people that go this way and that way. It's just the way of the world. Eyeball. But, same with this little girl. Continue, give them prasadam and, be nice and invest in the relationship. And they may misunderstand this, that's okay. Just be true to who you really are and what pleasing Krishna is. And that's when the sun rises, the darkness will be dispelled.
When we go from that other person, that's offending. So let's say, for example, if
But
I'm speaking to someone, I speak nicely, but he felt offended, but he didn't communicate to me that, hey, you spoke.
that's okay. That these things go on. This is a world of duality, and all kinds of strange things happen. I've done this before about 20 times. Here's 21. Have you ever been in an experience where you go out of your way to do something that's intended to be a kindness for another person, and they read it just the opposite?
Many times.
Many times. It's life.
Misunderstood.
So what should you do? I'm asking your question back to you. You do this something nice anyways. And anything nice for the pleasure of Krishna. Because we want Krishna to smile. The other person may go, the opposite, It's okay. You're not responsible for that. You're responsible for pleasing Krishna. And be consistent. And by carrying that bhakti in your heart, this has at least the potency, the potential is there, that their heart can change. It does happen. Some people don't, but sometimes it does. People change. Yeah.
To add to this, that I have experienced that when you really are very hurt or somebody is not behaving properly, you just tell yourself Krishna is watching.
Yeah.
Even if nobody else has, watched, but somebody is watching 24/7. And somewhere the person will have to pay whatever, if you're intentionally being mean all the time, But the person, Krishna is watching and judging everyone. So somewhere,
I appreciate very much what you're saying, and I prefer to what you just said. I prefer at least carrying your heart. What can I do that can be that help this person in this area that they're struggling with? What service? And I may not have an answer, but if that's what I'm carrying in my heart, that's powerful. I'm protected, and they may be benefited. I don't know, because Krishna's in their heart. I don't know what Krishna's going to do in their heart, but I wish well. And then if you start moving in that direction, intelligence starts to move in that direction. Super soul gives intelligence where there wasn't one. How to do something that's a benefit to the other person. You had your hand up, Mataji? Yes. No? No. Okay.